This is Why So Mysterious, the podcast where we attempt to fill the gap between the bodies we have and the lack of knowledge around them.
We're sharing our experiences and answering our own questions,
with some help along the way,
to destigmatize tricky, taboo topics, the triple T's.
Today we're talking about perimenopause with Lori-Jade Bystrom. Lori-Jade is a TV producer, vintage fashion-loving dog mother of 3 who lives by the sea with her American husband, Taylor. That sounds so sing-songy. Although she doesn't give herself the honor of being considered an activist, she uses her social media profile to talk about queer issues, trans rights, her husband is a trans man, mental health, body neutrality, and the perks and perils of boobs, wombs, vaginas, and anything else that springs to mind. Her style might be vintage, but her values are definitely not. Welcome to the show.
Thank you kindly. It's a pleasure.
So, I wanted to kind of start with something that we touched on briefly when we were setting this whole thing up, which is you had mentioned sort of discovering the way that you discovered that you were in the throes of perimenopause was you actually thought you might be really sick.
Yeah, it's I think as a person with a uterus, you're made aware kind of growing up that like you're going to start your period and then at some point in your life you're going to finish your period, and in the time period before you finish your period that your body's going to go haywire and everything's going to be really shit for a little while, and then you're going to stop and yay freedom. But nobody really explains the kind of vast array of symptoms and signs and things that can happen to you before you stop having your period. And you know, you hear about the hot flashes, that's like a typical one, and you hear about, you know, the kind of emotions and all the general things you'd expect from like massive fluctuations in hormones. But they don't tell you how shit you feel, like how sick you feel. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I went to the doctors, and I was going to the doctors for months because I had kind of irregular bleeding, and I had pain, and I had pain during sex, and I had bloating, and I just didn't feel good. I just felt just really unwell and just not myself, and like sluggish, and like my brain wasn't working properly. So the bleeding side of things was a real panic, because I'd always been you know, although I had my periods come like every 3 weeks, and they always have done, which is not ideal, but you know,
your reality.
After 38 years or whatever, you kind of get used to how your body works. But yeah, I was getting this like weird bleeding and this like intense pain, and I became convinced that I had ovarian cancer, which I know is completely morbid, but I felt
you can't help it.
No, and I felt so unwell and so unlike myself. I thought there must be some really sinister reason for this amount of pain that I'm getting. And
so if you're going to the doctor like consistently for a while as these things were coming up, like were you getting anything helpful from these doctor visits? Like did anyone alert you to the fact that it might be like, I hate this term, but like the change or something? Or was it just like endless tests?
It was more endless tests, because I am fairly young to be like going through the menopause, like the true menopause. It kind of wasn't really even mentioned. I have a bit of a knack with like doctors, so if I go in there wanting something test wise or wanting some kind of diagnostic, I tend to get it because I'm really pushy
still.
Which some people don't get that. They get like fobbed off, and you know.
It's really hard to be your own advocate, especially when you're talking to someone who's like gone to school for like 12 years and always thinks that they know I mean, I shouldn't generalize every doctor, but that's been my experience for the most
horrible,
part.
Yeah.
Terrible
experiences. And I find I'm a pretty pushy person when it comes to, and I'm like relatively like aware of my body, but I've had some terrible experiences with doctors where, you know, I had a doctor once tell me, like, what do you expect me to do? Like, be able to just diagnose you because you give me some symptoms? I was like, yes, that's exactly what I'm asking you to do.
Yeah,
that's what you're supposed to do. Yeah,
yeah.
It's and I think as well, you know, and again, it feels like a generalization, but it's you know, an almost universal experience that I hear about is anything kind of uterus and hormone related.
Definitely.
It's just one of those things. Like even when you get a doctor who also has a womb and should be understanding of these things, there very much is this just like suck it up. It's just all part of like having the bits that you have. This is just what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, I got you know, various tests done. I got tested for like an underactive thyroid because I was starting to put on weight. My hair was starting to like just feel weird. Like, I know that sounds like such a strange thing, but
absolutely a thing. Yeah, for sure.
Like thinning out, like not just like lack of condition and just all sorts of like super weird stuff.
So how did you
get? Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, how did you end up like being like diagnosed, or I guess, with menopause? Like, how did that end up coming about?
Well, I was sort of like hitting, like I've got other things going, like other kind of health problems going on. I've got like a chronic pain condition. You know, I've got my kind of the way my mental health kind of manifests itself at times is a very physical thing, and I thought maybe I'm just like really stressed out or something, and this, you know, because they say that, don't they, like, oh, we can't figure out what's wrong, it's probably stress, which could be true in you know, a lot of cases.
It is, just relax. Like,
yeah, exactly, just relax, do some meditating. Okay.
I don't know
but yeah, it was actually during the pandemic that I got over the phone that they kind of diagnosed me, and it was a doctor at sorry, the dogs are like, the dog, can you hear that?
So it was cute though, don't worry.
It's kind of cute, but it's there's about to be a big fight break out over a treat that's on the floor. Go away. Sorry.
No, don't worry.
Yes, actually, weirdly, like I kind of got the answers that I was looking for over the phone. It was a doctor I'd never spoken to before, a woman doctor, and she just sort of said, like, have you considered this possibility? And
had you?
I said, well, no, not really, because we all know about the menopause, and obviously I chatted to my mum like you do, and I said, did you go through this like really early? And she was like, no, I mean, I was 50 before I started, like, you know,
really
getting any sort of symptoms at all. But the more I kind of spoke to her about it, the more I thought, this unfortunately makes complete sense, because I feel like, thinking about it now, putting the pieces together, I basically feel like I'm like having PMS and PMT persistently, and you know how unwell like PMS and PMT can make you feel, and it can make you feel like a completely different person, and that's how I was feeling all the time. So yeah, that's how, and you know, we spoke about some options, and at first she wanted to put me on the pill, on like the mini pill, because sometimes that can kind of sort you out if you've got like a fluctuation in hormones, just to like but yeah, I've always suffered really badly with my hormones, you know, the headaches and the like bad mental health when my hormones are kind of imbalanced. You know, feeling really like sick, really nauseous, migraines, all of that kind of thing. So I don't know, I'm kind of still very reticent to like go down the hormone route.
Hormone therapy kind of.
Yeah. That's been suggested. She was like, look, you know, it makes millions of other women feel so much better. It might just make you feel better, but for me, I want to, if this is just the warm-up show, I want to save like the big guns for like when it really kicks off.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like some people do find that, like I have a friend who went on birth control because she found that it mentally leveled her out. Like her hormones were imbalanced enough that when she was on it, it leveled her out. But I have other friends who did the same thing and they felt totally insane. So it just because it works for some women, like, or menstruators, doesn't mean that it's going to work for everyone. And I definitely feel like, if this is the warm-up, it does kind of make sense to just like, let's just see how this goes for sure.
And see if you can manage it in like other ways.
Did you feel,
and you know, I think it's really important to kind of note that nobody's experiences are like the same, and what works for one person might be awful for somebody else. Or
absolutely, there is no one size fits all for like anything having to do with like
just anything uterine
related.
It's like there's no one cure all for everybody. It's similar to
so easy if that was. But it's like it's trial and error as well. It's like
absolutely,
you know, and random, well, not random, but like you know, like all the things that are out there, you might just select a few of those things that kind of work for you. And I have found things that work for me, but they kind of make me, it's really hard to explain. They like, for example, I found that caffeine is really bad, and how I found that out weirdly was when, because obviously I broke my elbow like a month ago. And I had surgery, and I know, and I've read that like caffeine can impede like the healing process. So I thought, right, I'm not going to drink coffee
at all. Healing processes
for when it comes to broken bones.
Oh wow. Okay, that's a revelation. I did not know.
I mean, I hope you're not planning on breaking any bones anytime soon, but if you do, caffeine apparently is bad. Which I didn't know. So I stopped drinking caffeine. And weirdly, that improved my PMSy type symptoms by, I don't know, I can't quantify it, 5%, 10%. I felt better. A bit. Like I felt better. I felt I felt markedly better. I've sort of been accidentally eating vegetarian as well.
Accidentally?
Well, I didn't do it because of my hormones and the menopause and stuff, but I'm finding like Taylor's basically a vegetarian. Like I've still been working throughout the pandemic, and Taylor wasn't a chef, but we've got you probably have a similar thing over there where you get like a box of ingredients delivered and then the recipes, and then
like HelloFresh and
HelloFresh. That's it, exactly. And he, as a vegetarian, not a massive meat eater, like we opted for the veggie box. So for the last like couple of months we've been eating vegetarian, which again has also helped like some of my symptoms, like, you know, write that down.
I'm writing these down. So it's like,
were you eating
basically all the good stuff, all the stuff that's like really fun in life, like meat and caffeine.
What about dairy?
Again, we are like, we've cut down massively on dairy because Taylor's lactose intolerant, so we don't eat nearly as much.
That's probably
what other joys in life have I been depriving myself of?
Yeah,
I don't drink anyway, so I never. Yeah. Although I do imagine. I mean, they tell you that stopping drinking helps everything, don't they?
They
do.
I know for my mom specifically, red wine would she would have like a sip of red wine and immediately get a migraine. And then that was like the biggest one for her during perimenopause was migraines, and that was something that was just like a no-go. And my mom likes red wine, so that was a problem.
I'm sure. And we just did like a little video on like nutrition and hormones. And I'm certain, just because what perimenopause is like the drop off of the hormones, and kind of towards the end of your cycle, you're going to like a mini version of that. So you're dropping off the hormones. So like in that episode, we were talking a lot about like vegetables and legumes and leafy greens. All those things really help with hormone balancing. So I think it's interesting that like also through perimenopause, you're feeling like a little bit, again, not a cure-all, but maybe potentially a little bit helping like the hormone balancing.
Yeah. You can do for yourself. And like diet is such I mean, it's really hard, but it's it's a thing that you can do for yourself, or most people can do for themselves. So it's good.
It is. And it's, it's that way up between like, do you want to just eat whatever you like, which obviously that's what everybody wants to do, especially if you like food, and I love food. But do you want to eat what you like, or do you want to, amend your diet slightly and feel 25%? I don't know where I'm getting these numbers from. 25% better. I'm just pulling them out my ass.
There's a saying that I find really patronizing, but like and we also talked about this in this nutrition episode, is every time that my family is like, crunchy West Coast 90s vegetarians, like that's how we grew up. And so every time something was like wrong, it was normally we would go to like a natural path and you'd change the diet first. That was kind of the normal thing. And there's a saying that started going around, which is nothing tastes as good as feeling good feels. Oh, puppy. And I find that so irritating, because I feel like it gets kind of like weaponized in the wellness industry. But every time I have done like, not like a diet, but changed my diet to like feel better, I have, and it's so frustrating.
It's really frustrating. I think that's what I was kind of like. I don't want to be disparaging to anybody who lives like a super healthy lifestyle, because good for them. But also that's never been me. I'm in the pursuit of pleasure and happiness at all times, and I don't ever want to deprive myself of anything. So if the meat thing, there's a question mark over that, because I'm a massive animal lover, and I can't the older I get, the less I can separate the two things between the dead animals and the food that I'm eating. That's fair. So that's not so hard. But exercise as well, like I never wanted to be like that boring so basically I drink decaffeinated coffee, I exercise, I don't eat meat. Like, who the fuck am I? Like, who is this like person?
It's like every blog out there tells you to do those things, and you're like, I don't want to be that person.
Because
you don't want to be that person.
All the people that I see who do that, especially who do it in like social media, because like microblogging on Instagram, all that stuff, is like the person that I see doing that is like always wearing, like leggings. They're wearing like almost no makeup. They're always standing in front of a screen door with the sunset. Like, oh, like this is, I wouldn't want it any other way. It's just like, who cares?
Yeah. Hashtag blessed.
Yeah. And I just think, wow, your life must be so boring. And so I do really love seeing people who still like, I love hearing this from you too, because like I fucking love your outfit. I love your like whole vintage thing is like totally my speed, and I want to see more people who live like more maximalist lives, taking care of themselves. Then it doesn't feel so culty either.
I think also in doing it for yourself and not doing it for a body type that society says is the ideal.
Agreed.
Is really, because it's just to make yourself feel better, because your body right now is making you feel worse. It's like actually going through something that's causing you to think you're sick.
Yeah.
So it's like to do anything that makes it just even 5% better or 25 or whatever it is. It's
whatever number.
Yeah, whatever number. It's going to be worth it for sure.
And empowering.
And I do think that is the difference, is like, I put up a post, you know, it probably was like 8 weeks ago now or something, just saying, I feel like shit and I'm sick of feeling like shit and I need to do something about it. So I went to like, do you have Slimming World in Canada?
Sorry, Slimming World?
Slimming World. It's like Weight Watchers. It's like, you know,
it's
like one of these places where you're supposed to go and sit and like weigh in and then sit with other people who want to lose weight and like, you know,
we do
which is not me at all. But I was like, I have to do something. And pretty much in the 1 week, I started running. I started going to Slimming World. I started horse riding again. I started skating. I changed my diet, and I basically like, they tell you to do things in like stages, like take baby steps. That's not me. It at all. It's like just throw everything at it, because I'm too impatient to wait and see whether this one thing works. So I'm just going to do everything.
Oh my God. Good
like it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
So I just started doing all these things that people have been like telling me or telling the world to do to make themselves feel better, that I've been like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like exercise is bullshit. Turns out exercise really does make you feel better. And I'm not doing it to lose weight, but it, like, you know, it has helped me a little bit with that. It just has boosted my mood. I don't feel like, it clears my mind.
I find it,
and it does
sleep too, which is more important the older I get as well.
Have you seen any like changes in your sleep patterns?
Yes. It's another thing that you kind of expect from the menopause, but you don't know, to get told about the perimenopause, is that like your sleep turns to shit. I can get to sleep, but it's staying asleep, and I wake up frequently and have been for like months and months and months now. So you have to make sure that the sleep that you do get is like good quality. But also, like weirdly, when I broke my elbow, it felt like the world was ending, which sounds really dramatic, but it basically stopped me from doing a lot of the things that I was doing to make myself feel better. Because I couldn't run and I couldn't ride and I couldn't skate and I couldn't do all of these things. But I started taking like a load of vitamins. Sorry, Taylor laughs at the way that I pronounce that. Vitamins.
We've got a UK resident in the office.
Yeah, we like
it.
Which I'm going to like just for faster healing. But my mum bought me like a load of like evening primrose oil and sage and all this stuff, and I was like, oh, whatever, and put it in the cupboard. And then I thought I might as well just start taking it just to see. And it does make you feel better. Who knew, apart from all the people that have been saying it for
people are just
200 years.
I know. Do this.
I know. But it's still
is. You know, it is definitely, I feel that, like I feel like I reject a lot of those things sometimes, and then when you start doing it, you're like, oh shit, I actually feel so much better. Like, I actually just like, so we recently just moved into like a proper house, so like we actually have a kitchen. Like we're talking, before this house, we had one cupboard, like a singular cupboard and a sink. And like that's it. Like we lived in squalor pretty much. So we just moved into a proper house. And for the first time ever, we're cooking. And like not eating out. Like we used to eat out all the time, which is just a terrible way to spend our money. But I'm like, oh my God, I feel a million times better because I'm not eating crap all the time. Convenience food. And cooking, and I'm actually just like enjoying it. And these things that I was like, oh well, I don't like cooking. Like that was always my narrative, because I didn't like cooking in my squalor apartment. Like I hated it. It was horrible. But now I'm like, oh, okay, we actually like have a nice place where we can like cook and do it and I can enjoy it. So these things, it's just like, I think it's also like where you are in your life, like if you're really even able to, you know, do those things.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Yeah. And I do think as well, I'm probably, so I'm just going to grab my tea. I'm just going to have a little sip of tea in a very, in a very British way, and in a nice teacup.
Aww. Cheers.
I don't know, just feeling so shit and realizing that, again, this is going to sound really dramatic and probably a bit, it's a bit of an over kind of exaggeration, but going into perimenopause reminds you of your age and reminds you of your mortality.
Yeah.
Is that a strange thing to say?
No, absolutely not. Because I remember also like when my mom started going into perimenopause, she was very vocal about it. Very vocal about it. She let everybody know in the house. I don't know about, in the world, but and one thing that she said was so annoying, because we were talking once about like just age. And I was like, why are you so worried about getting older? Because to me, especially at that point, I was like, getting older sounds awesome to me. And my mom was like, it's constantly reminding me that like of your mortality. But she's like, it also reminds me that there's still so much I want to do. And I'm not done. And I don't like being reminded that like, biology is telling me that your time for certain things are closing. And I was like, that's scary when you put it in that context. I'm not done.
Yeah. I mean, I'm childless by choice.
Yeah.
And, I really feel for people who kind of do go into early menopause, who do want kids and they kind of didn't, maybe thought that they had more time than they actually did have. It's not a concern to me because I've never wanted children. I'm not going to have children, so I don't like. I'm fortunate to not have that pressure kind of weighing on me, and like, I'm sure a lot of people do when they start kind of realizing that the factory's shutting down. This mad panic where they're like, oh my god, we have to have it just becomes an extra layer of like stress that I don't have, which is fortunate, but it does just remind you that you've got one body, and I probably haven't looked after it as well as I could have or should have. I mean, I've been sober for quite a long time, and I've had like substance abuse issues in the past, so like I haven't touched drugs in like a really long time. So from that point of view, I think my body's probably repaired itself somewhat, but I've always just eaten what I wanted to, and I've never exercised really, and like I've just I don't know, I've never had the forethought that like if I don't look after my body now, when I get older, I'm going to suffer a lot more.
Absolutely.
And I think going through this has kind of given me an insight as well to like, you need to like start taking care of yourself, because this body is going to be, she's back again.
But I think that's also really like wonderful, because it's not even necessarily like, you could say like better late than never or something like that. But at the same time, it's like, instead of feeling like defeated by making those realizations, it's like you're still, doing it now. Doing it now. And that's, what could have been maybe, but I still think it's really cool not to be, not to be defeated.
And I love it as well. And I feel like, I've been, honestly, I've been so, Twiglet, what are you doing?
Twiglet?
That's her name, yeah, Twiglet. Do you have Twiglets in Canada?
No. What is a Twiglet?
They're like a little snack, like a little, I don't think you even have Marmite over there, do you? Do you have Marmite?
Marmite is. That's the weird, oh wait, no, I'm thinking of Vegemite.
Yes, they're very similar.
Okay, yeah.
They're super similar. but like Twiglets are like little snacks that look like bits of twig that taste like Vegemite, basically.
That sounds delicious.
No, it doesn't. No offense.
They're really tasty.
That is so fun.
I'll ship you some over.
Yeah, please do.
They say Marmite, you either love it or you hate it, because it's a very
oh yeah,
I've never had it.
It's an acquired taste.
Vegemite, I would love it.
I've never had Vegemite either. It doesn't sound.
How can you say you don't like it if you haven't had
I'm just gonna, there's some.
She does this all the time.
I'll try it if it ends up here, but I've eaten some weird Icelandic things that Sarah's given me before that I regretted instantly. So.
Oh my god! Like what? Like fermented reindeer?
No, I didn't force her.
It's a candy. It's a long story. It tastes like baking soda. It's disgusting.
I had one this morning. It doesn't taste like baking soda, but
and it's candy. Delicious. I don't understand. Anyway, so
yeah, I came back from where had I been? Where had I been? I've maybe been in Denmark or something, and I came back and
Denmark with their weird fermented fish.
Yeah. Well, I bought some licorice, like some black licorice at the airport, and was just like sat on the plane and was expecting to like tuck into this licorice, which I love, and I put it in my mouth, and it was salty and like ammonia. It tastes like ammonia.
That's it. That's the thing.
It's the best.
It's not. It's disgusting.
It was just wrong. It was not what I was expecting at all, and it was just like, what is it? And then I tried to give it away. I gave it to my mum. She didn't want it. No. It ended up in my uncle's house. He didn't want it. It basically went round like the entire family. Everyone was like, what is this? Stop trying to give this to us.
I don't understand how anyone would make it a flavor and enjoy it. It is a cultural thing that I am fine with not understanding.
I love it. I keep a bag of them in the car.
Oh my god, she was ice cream.
We literally everything. I keep a bag of it in the car, and I had one this morning, and then I put my mask on, and then and then earlier I went to go put my mask on. It smelled like the candy. I was like, this is
it's like poisonous fumes.
Anyway, it's the weirdest thing.
We digress.
So we were thinking that maybe we could go into. Sarah has pulled up some fast facts on some.
Well, I think sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
but something that I think we were both talking about. We're both in our late 20s, so. Menopause, perimenopause has not, and we're so focused on menstruation, obviously doing what we do.
Yes.
Perimenopause is something that we wanted to learn about and wanted to, start bringing into what we educate our customers on.
Brilliant idea.
That all of our customers will go through.
Yeah.
And, but what I think, and this is what I love about the work that we do is like these like days where we just learn something that is just, I'm like, how did I not know this?
Yeah.
So when doing research, and I was at first I was really confused. I was like, what is the difference between perimenopause and menopause? And so when I was doing the research, because in like media and TV, everybody talks about menopause being all the things like that. Actually, what you're feeling in perimenopause is like, that's when you start to feel all those symptoms.
Yeah, like perimenopause is the intro to menopause.
And menopause, and then when I was looking at the definition, menopause is like when you've had 12 months of no period is when you have officially hit menopause.
Which is almost
exactly
day.
Yeah, and then you're post-menopause.
After that. It's the anniversary of 1 year of not having your period is menopause. It's that one day, and then you're postmenopausal. And both of us always thought that menopause was the long event.
The 10-year event of...
Yeah, the 10-year event. Did you know that? I had no idea.
To be honest with you, it makes total sense. Sorry, this bloody dog. Come here.
In the center.
She wants to be in the spotlight.
She's just an attention whore.
I love that. In the middle.
I mean, that makes total sense. But yeah, I mean, I guess I did think as well, like, even being perimenopausal, I just presumed it was the pre, and then menopause was something. Sorry.
Okay, so cute.
Twiglet. Okay, she's going away now.
Yeah, you think it's like peri is kind of like a part of the phase, like, and then menopause is a part of the phase.
Yeah.
Menopause is actually a date.
One date.
And then you're post-menopause at that point.
Yeah.
And so, which I was like, again, it's just, and I understand, you know, maybe it's just easier to just call it menopause. But for all of us who are uterus owners to understand that,
I think having the correct vocabulary is so important. And I think it's interesting that, like, while you're doing, like, you know, research, it's like even these sort of fast facts, it's like the name of the article is like, what is it?
34 symptoms of menopause. But then so I pulled it up and I was looking, and this is from the London PMS and Menopause Clinic. So this is, you know, this is their work. This is what
they know their stuff.
And but it goes, technically, these symptoms are anything actually from perimenopause to post-menopause. So there's some things in here that I would say, well, you're not actually going to feel that until post-menopause. So to put them in the same category might confuse people. Like if they're looking for information on it, and they're seeing these symptoms of, you know, one of them is this really odd one, burning mouth syndrome. But
have you heard of that?
It's just this is
God.
But it's
supposed to look forward to.
Yeah, but that one only happens post menopause once all your hormones drop off.
Yeah.
But it's just like, for me, as someone, I consume a lot of data on like menstruation, basically just anything uterus involved. And the amount of not just misinformation, but lack of information out there, and even from people providing the information, it gets me a little bit frustrated. Like, you know, separate these into 3 different articles. Tell me what's peri, what is, and then, you know, realizing menopause is really just a date, you know. And what's post-menopause.
Yeah.
It's really important that, like, us as people with uteruses, that we understand that there is a difference in these phases. There's something to expect from one and something else from the other.
To expect from another.
But
it is important, because there's probably a lot of people, well, not even probably, there's no probably about it. Ever since I've started posting about that kind of thing, people have been messaging me going, oh my God, why didn't anybody tell us this? Like, we had to find this out the hard way, you know?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And it's again, it's an almost, it's not properly explained, and it needs to be, because it can be incredibly scary for people who don't know what's coming. Like, it can be, well, you know, I thought I had cancer, for God's sake. That's how shit I felt. And it's like, if somebody just explained, you know, these are things that you could potentially start experiencing as your hormones start to kind of wind down a little bit, I would have been, you know,
not as terrified.
Not as terrified about it.
A little less anxious about what could possibly be going on in your body.
And that's like definitely a thing, like when you first start menstruating, there's still, which is super sad to me, but like it's not talked about. Like there's still people who are experiencing like their first bleed, not knowing what it is. And I think it's just so frustrating and sad that like as you are used to this happening and you kind of know what to expect, that all of a sudden you're kind of in like a later term version of that when you start perimenopause, where it's just like, I'm losing control of my body, I don't know what's going on, and I might be dying. Like that's dramatic, but maybe not, because that's actually a lot of people's experience. It's just I don't think that's
it's still, I've always been fairly kind of, I've been an oversharer like all of my life. But you know, it still does baffle me that like these things are, why are bodily functions so like taboo? Like, we don't live in the Victorian times now. Like, why does it matter? Like, talk about what your body's doing, share information, you know, empower yourselves and empower other people to kind of just know what it's like we all have a body. It's going to do weird things at times.
Yes.
We'll all be slightly less in the dark if we don't have to keep these things a secret. And it's you know, I don't want to even get into the fucking patriarchy right now, but that's basically the men have done this to us, unfortunately.
And
they don't want to hear about it. They didn't want to know about it.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It disgusted them, it repulsed them, so it was not something that was talked about in kind of polite society. But those days are over now, and you know,
and that's
we need to talk about it for ourselves and like the generations of others who are kind of growing up and still might be living in a situation where these things aren't talked about. They need to be able to find these resources so they don't feel so alone and ashamed and whatever else, you know. It's important.
Yeah. And I think like the fact that, you know, you were kind of poked and prodded until finally a doctor
over
like,
the phone,
have you thought about this? And it's like, well, why didn't any of the doctors, you know, think about it?
It was the weirdest thing.
So
and as soon as they sort of said that, I just felt so much better. You know, because like in a weird way, like you get your blood results back and everything's fine, and you get your scan results back and everything's fine, and you're like, you should be overjoyed, but there's just a part of you thinking, well, what the hell is it then? Like, why do I feel so terrible? Like there must be something going on. There must be something awful going on with my body. And then as soon as she said that, I thought this all makes sense. And now, weirdly, I don't feel as shit as I did, because I don't have fear and anxiety on top of, you know, everything else that's going on.
Once like, you know, it's still kind of a mystery trying to figure out like how to, you know, maneuver through it. But once the mystery itself is revealed, and then you're empowered to do something about it, or at least like try things that are related to it. But if you just don't know, if all those results are coming back totally fine, then you don't know how to help yourself. And that's just super scary. So that was actually another question that I wanted to ask you, is if there have been any like empowering kind of side effects of the whole thing. But it sounds like, once you found out.
And I actually feel, I feel like feeling so crap has pushed me to start to think about how I'm treating my body and how I have been treating my body. And, you know, I have started being healthier, and I feel good, and I feel mentally much better for it. So it's like, although it's quite an extreme thing to have to go through to suddenly realize that exercise makes you feel good and eating well makes you feel good. I feel empowered in that sense, in the fact that it's finally like the pennies dropped, and like finally, basically, if a bunch of people tell me to do something, I'm not going to do it, because that's the kind of person that I am. I don't believe the hype. And if everyone is saying, oh my God, you have to exercise, you'll feel so much better, I'm like, fuck off, I'm going to sit on the sofa and eat chocolate and watch Netflix, and I will feel just fine, thank you. But to everyone who wants to say I told you so to me, you can say it, because you were right. I feel much better for eating better and exercising.
You have to arrive at everything in your own time. That's just the way most things go. So
exactly.
I can feel that for sure. I'm a defiant person by nature.
Don't tell me what to do.
Right?
So I definitely get that. And I think it is that process of like really, I think just doing it for yourself is the really like the biggest change. You know, that's the biggest part of it, is you're actually just doing it to make yourself feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you're just doing it like kind of dieting and exercising, and if you're doing it for not cosmetic, but there's all sorts of reasons why people kind of exercise and diet and whatever, but like when I've ever gone at it from the perspective of somebody who's thinking, oh, I need to lose weight, like I've been setting myself up to fail, because like that's just, you know, that's not what motivates me.
Yeah.
But now it's like to feel physically and mentally like better,
yes,
it's totally worth it.
yeah.
And I look forward to, I look forward to when my arm is properly healed, so I can start exercising again, and I can start like, running and riding and all these things that I was doing. But yeah, I had to get there in my own time. But and I would never say like to anyone, this is what I think you should do. I think it really is trial and error. But yeah, maybe the kind of takeaway is like just be a bit open-minded.
That's a good,
and and quietly try these things that people are kind of like recommending that you do.
And see what works.
And see what works. Yeah, exactly.
I feel that.
But yeah, there's a long way to go yet. And she casually told me on the phone that I could feel like this for 10 years, which was like marvelous to hear. But I found a few things that are making me feel better, so I'm just going to take it as it comes and take one day at a time and see where we go.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think this has been like really awesome. I think like this is definitely what our community really like wants to learn about. Everybody wants to learn, I think, more, and it is about having those conversations where we're just talking about what's happening. Like, just
it's gonna happen to most of us. Yeah. So why not be aware that what to expect?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, I get that, with what you do, it does seem, it probably seems like menstruation is the main focus, but like your underwear has been an absolute godsend to me, because like, my bleeding is like really erratic and it's really heavy and it lasts for like ages. Sometimes it'll last for like a week and then it'll stop and then it'll start again. And it's like, having the added stress of like forgetting that you're like to carry sanitary products around with you or whatever. And, it's just taken all that away, because I just put your underwear on like I would put my underwear on in the morning, and I don't have to worry about it. Do you know what I mean? I can, like, if I go out and then suddenly my period decides to make a surprise appearance, it is not a big deal. And like prior to period pants, the amount of times I leaked, or like leaking was a major thing for me, like at work, on my chair at work, or like, or on the train or whatever. And it's so stressful.
Yes.
And that you're like, Revel have just they've just taken that like stress away from me now. I have nearly a pair, because I've stolen Taylor's pairs as well, so I have nearly a pair for like every day of the week. And if I'm thinking, I feel like I might come on sometime in the next few days, I just wear them, and then if I do, it's no big deal.
Exactly.
That's the point.
That's the point.
That's really awesome.
Exactly it. That's it. Yeah, for sure.
And so thank you for that, and thank you for like reaching out and like opening my eyes to this whole new world.
Well, we love you, and we love what you're doing and everything like that. And so where can let's do this. Where can other people find you if they wanted to?
If people would like to find me, you will mainly find me hanging out at Greyhound Vintage on Instagram.
Yes.
And that's it. I love Instagram. I don't know how you feel about Instagram as like a marketing tool for like business or whatever.
Yeah, we love Instagram. I mean, our whole like focus with Instagram is just to kind of be like the best friend that has the information. Like,
yes.
People DM us with like questions all the time. I always say like, we're open for any questions. It doesn't have to be underwear related. It can be just any like really uterus function related. And people will just be like, hey, I have this question. I'm like, I don't have the answer, but give me 24 hours. I'll do some research. Because I can, like I said, like I consume so much of this research that like I can read through it really easily and pull the like necessary information. And I love putting that out there. Like I love educating because there's so many of us, and myself included, that don't know so many things about our own bodies.
Yeah.
All the time.
And we like the visual aspect of the whole thing as well. Like we're pretty
love it.
Visceral.
It's fun.
It's so nice, and it's just such a nice like community, and I've just met some like incredible people and like, you know, incredible brands like yourselves who are kind of just doing what I set out to do, and that's basically just, you know, breaking down these kind of societal norms that talking about certain topics are off limits. I mean, it's just a body, like we all have one, and they do weird shit, and let's like be empowered to just know a bit more about what our bodies are doing.
Absolutely. And I did think that was interesting also, just as a quick aside, when we had the chat to set this whole thing up, that you mentioned that the things that lose you the most followers are period related. And what was the like queer specific content as well? Or was that something else?
It's like my period posts are super high performing. Like they're some of my most popular posts are the ones that I've done, you know, in collaboration with you guys. But also they do, as soon as I post, like I do lose a lot of followers, and it's like, you know, whatever, like no, I'm not going to say it's the trash taking itself out, but you know what I mean. If you don't want to listen to what I'm saying about periods, then fine. You don't have to listen to what I'm saying. But you know, it's I just find it super weird that like periods like freak people out so much that they decide to like do a mass exodus off my account because they can't bear to like hear about, you know, blood coming out of a vagina. It's like, what is like, how, I don't know, like how, what is your mind doing that's like offensive in any way? But
absolutely,
it's fine.
Very interesting.
It's fine.
Whatever.
Yeah,
it's fine. You know,
I know people can be very, very sensitive about.
I think a lot of people come to Instagram for sorry, but I'm very aware that like I could talk to you for ages. And I will. But you know, I'm just people. So a lot of people come to Instagram for like an escape of reality, whereas I'm very much like, I have this big platform of people listening to me. I'm going to talk about reality because not everything is Instagram perfect, and if that's what you come to Instagram for, then I'm probably not the place to go.
You just go to Pinterest if that's your thing.
Go to Pinterest. Yeah, exactly. It's a great idea.
Why So Mysterious is hosted by Sara Jonsdottir and Raven McLean. Audio is produced and edited by Sonia Inke. Original music is by Malcolm Holt and Alexis Young.
Check out our website, whysomysterious.com, for more information about this episode and other episodes. You can also email us with questions or topics you'd like to hear us cover on the show at whysomysteriousPod@gmail.com.
Follow us on Instagram at whysomysteriousPod for updates, fun facts, and general outrage. If you're an audio listener, but you'd rather be a voyeur, check us out on YouTube.
If you like the show, tell your friends, and don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Until next time!